I'm here with Hans of Avatar to talk about the new record Don't Go in the Forest, out October 31st on 30 Tigers. Thank you very much for taking the time. It's always a pleasure to talk to you about new Avatar music, and it's always a pleasure to listen to new Avatar music. And this record definitely delivers that Avatar sound. Let me start off by asking you this. Listening to the record, I have my own thoughts on it, but I wanted to get your take. Do you see this as being a concept record, or is this more of a theme-driven album?
I guess theme driven is a good way to put it. Once we did a actual an actual concept album, immediately followed by a second one, kind of by just well, it's just how things line up to be. I think you build up some kind of like that big picture thinking after that kind of stays with you, I believe. So, but the big thing for an album like this that was more about figuring things out along the way, also kind of by design. Uh, yeah, the themes, I guess, simply come from that it's written in a certain time of our lives where you're a bit more interested in certain things. So it's way more of that rather than figuring out beforehand what it's gonna be. Uh, That being said, there were certain parts of the method in itself that became thematic, where like a good half of the album, not all of the songs, but a good half, really relied on the subconscious in terms of writing, when lyrically speaking, when I was starting to figure out vocals on things. I think because having grown up and reading the music magazines and everybody always knew what the songs were about in the interview. And that made me think that you have to have all those ideas super clear for you the very second the pen hits the paper. And and I mean I've been fighting against that a bit through the years, but it really came into fruition and became I really embraced not doing that more than ever before on this album. Where I think in the past I mean, every idea that you get kind of starts in an abstract place, I think, no matter what you do artistically. It's kind of many times hard to really explain where that first spark of inspiration, exactly how that came together. Uh, so I liken it to that you go swimming, and if you dive underwater, you swim to the bottom of of a lake and you search in the mud and poof, there's something there, something shiny. So you bring it with you, you bring it to shore, and then you sit there and look at it. What is this? What does it mean? What could it be? And I think I would do that a lot and kind of got better through the years to do that very with purpose, kind of looking at this and trying to make sense out of what a song was based on two lines of lyrics or one riff immediately at the beginning. And and that became, I think, very strong on, for instance, the last album, Dance Devil Dance, which had very concrete goals on it. But this time around, I kind of let the subconscious take the wheel, and instead of trying to always had it figured out for myself what exactly something was right in the beginning, I would trust a sense of beauty. Like if what I wrote, if it kind of pleased me aesthetically, like that's pretty, whatever that means. I put some trust into that. That meant that it meant something. And towards the end, when the song was finished, you could take a step back and see where did I go? Whoa, what a trip! And also, what does it mean? And okay, I see it now. Yeah, that makes sense. And it was kind of removing yet another filter. So so that became a theme. It's more surreal, dream-based, deep going like that, deep set memories, those kind of things, and just a lot of intuition.
We've spoken in the past, and you mentioned to me in a previous interview that the versatility of the band is really important in terms of the sound. Like you guys don't
Yeah.
record an album where every song follows a similar pattern, so the album is very,
Mm.
very diverse. You even mentioned Queen as a band who had albums that were extremely eclectic from song one to
Yeah.
song two.
Mm.
I found that the eclecticness in the versatility of the band has become the sound of the band. Do you see it
Yeah.
from that same perspective?
100%. I think we don't say that a certain set of amplifiers or a certain four notes in my range or whatever it could be or certain tempo, certain keys that's the sound. It's like you say, Queen was a huge one, and the other big one as an example from role model, I should say, for this line of thinking is the Beatles, where I feel like was bands that were experimental into learning new things, into trying new stuff, into embracing change as it came, and to be, well, in both cases, but maybe the most the Beatles, because the Beatles are the Beatles, but that level of innovation where even if at times if they weren't the first to record something with that, with the backwards tapes or all the stuff they did, they were many times anyway first to do it in more popular music. So to bring it into their world, things they have picked up going to artsy underground events in the 60s or whatever. So to integrate whatever little treasures you find along the way, you take them with you into your own work. And my reasoning is always I'm not talented enough to sound like somebody else. It's always kind of got to be me. And I also believe that the best version of Avatar is for us to do whatever we really, really feel into at any given time. That gives us the best chance to top ourselves and pull off our best work and all of that instead of I didn't write songs about strippers and cocaine when I was 25, but some bands do, and I guess that's fine. But then if that becomes the formula and you want to keep up with that, and then you write songs about strippers or cocaine in your 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, it's like, you know, shouldn't you have lived a richer life at this point, but you
There
just
was
kind of stifle yourself.
there was no strippers and cocaine in Avatar country. Is that what you're telling us?
No, like the constant. Well, thank you for thinking I look young enough to have been 25 when we did Avatar Country, but the you must understand that the glory of the king puts his citizens in such a bliss that any taking any uppers on top of that would still be like taking a downer relative to the level of bliss you're already experienced just basking in his glory.
Wow, well said, well said. The funny thing about this record for me was that when we checked out the singles on the channel, my son and I, every time we checked out one of the singles, it sounded very different from the previous one. That comes that
Mm,
versatility. But we always looked at one another and said, "This is Avatar." Uh,
mm.
does the theme on a record like this, since it's not a concept, but it's more of a theme-driven album, does the theme help somehow become the red line that connects all of these very unique songs?
Uh, on every other album, it does. On this album, just like with Hunter Gatherer, I would say the red line is discovered by us as we make it. So, but Dance Devil Dance was way more like that. Dance Devil Dance, I think, obviously a big part was that it was written during the pandemic, uh, and it was very important to not make a pandemic album. There are one or two pandemic songs, which is fair to put your anxiety somewhere. But I needed, our world was small at the time, and I needed we needed that album to connect with a big world somehow, to not just be that. And there was more time to think because we didn't tour, and and it was just the nature of how the process was, where that there was an ideology formed around it. It was a spiritual exploration with Dance Devil Dance. There was a musical idea of, well, we make heavy metal, and heavy metal is rock and roll, really, and rock and roll is dance music. And so you know, and we start to line up these ideas that give a very clear framework that affected all the songs, no matter what style of, you know, no matter how fast or slow they were, they kind of all fit within a certain a frame we have built for ourselves. And I think then with an album like Don't Go in the Forest, we kind of start in the middle of the painting and dig our way out and hit the frame at some point where it starts to make sense. But I think in that case, you put again trust intuition, also trust in that because we're multiple songwriters and we're very democratic and the whole collective is working on the songs together at the end of the day. And with that audience of five, it's always if I have, you know, I might have three different directions all at once going on in whatever I bring to the table. So does Jonas, so does Tim. But then we all five sit there and it's kind of which stuff that you made turned me on the most, and you can kind of organically you go in a circle like that. Basically, which of your riffs am I gonna steal for a song that I have, or vice versa, because I like that so much that it became mine. So that's kind of a natural selection process that happens. So no, yeah. So long story short is just we found a red thread minutes before it became evident to you, basically.
This album, considering that there's that subconscious aspect to the way the album is created, I would go as far as to say even in the lyrical content, you see some of that
Hmm.
there.
Hmm.
Does that subconscious world, for lack of a better term, is that a dark world? Because I feel like this album comes across dark in its essence.
Hmm. Well, I think that's what I usually use the lyric writing for. I so when I'm here in my rehearse space, and when I practice, I like along with singing Avatar stuff, writing, and you know doing pure running of scales and arpeggios, those kind of things. I like to put on, I have a karaoke, it's like a, you know, app, you know, where you stream karaoke songs, kind of like, you know, a Spotify or something, but but for karaoke. And I like to sing other songs than my own, to do a couple of them, a few of them every time I come to practice. And for instance, you got Stevie Wonder, and I'm deeply fascinated with to write a song. Oh, I just had a baby. Isn't she lovely? Or, you know, well, my childhood was great. I wish those days could come back once more. And yeah, babies are cute, and I had a good childhood. I don't use the music for that very often. I mean, I think the closest I've gotten so far in Avatar to sing an actual love song that says more about the love than it says about the problem, although it's still based there, still from that place, they're fighting for something. So meaning there's a conflict in the song. Uh, I think I've got closest to Stevie Wonder ever on Howling at the Waves from where I come from in the style of writes, where songs like that would deal with relationships would really dwell more on the challenges and hardships and hurdles. Uh, but yeah, it's so it's and I think a lot of it is in the nature of what metal is. A lot of the time, not all the time. You got Halloween and bands like that, but a lot of the time is to open the forbidden door in your mind, confront things, and dwell there. And I also think there's a very healthy aspect to it. This is something therapeutic about it. Maybe first and foremost for me who gets to make it, but then also with some of the people that, you know, latch onto that side and it resonates with them, and my outlet becomes something to connect with. Because I'm yet to see a therapist, but and I don't have that kind of childhood trauma, but from what I've gathered, you know. that's kind of a thing you can do with a therapist. Like, oh, something in your adult life is not as the way it should be. So you sit down and talk to someone, and at some point you have to open that very, very scary door and confront whatever, where does the pain come from? And and confront it so you can heal, develop tools, move on, and live a richer life moving forward. So there's something to be said to dwell in the dark, to confront the dark, and a lot of it becomes that therapeutic.
Are you comfortable with the thought that for a lot of people, myself included, your music, your lyrics become our therapy?
Um, to a certain degree, yes, I have heard and people have shared with me some amazing stories. There was a, a person and something had happened to them that they couldn't walk, and doctors said that it wasn't going to happen, but they insisted on. They listened to Bloody Angel over and over and put work in that some would have said, some said were pointless. And I met them and they walked, and gave us and me a lot of credit for it. And that's, of course, amazing, uh, very touching and inspiring. Not so much inspiring because it was our songs, but because what this person achieved. And I am a fan of a lot of things. So I know what it feels when something hits you and reaches you in the right time. But I must give credit to the listener first and foremost, because we can only, I don't think we can create something that isn't there. I think it's evident in that people enjoy the same band in a lot of different ways, where it's just, oh, kick-ass riffs and I'm having so much fun. That's 100% valid. Or this saved my life. It's a 100% valid feeling. But I would add, nah, you kind of saved your own life then, you know? Yeah, we provided some kind of soundtrack for it. You can be a catalyst for things, but you can never be the engine. You're never the gasoline. And so much is based on what that person has within themselves already. So I just, I, I, I see what we do, uh, and the truth is also that that's just what music can do in and out of itself. And I'm grateful that happened to be us in some cases, that's an amazing thing to be a part of. Uh, but you have to put the focus on the person actually achieve whatever they achieved. Uh, that's where the real work was done. And we're just grateful for the stories after the fact.
A song like "Don't Go in the Forest," which by the way is my favorite song on the record.
Thank you.
I absolutely like it's fucking phenomenal. What a track. And I think the beauty of not just this song, but a lot of the songs on this record from a lyrical standpoint is that you can take it from different angles. When I was listening to "Don't
Mm.
Go in the Forest," you could easily take it from a horror perspective. You hear a
Hmm.
noise in the forest, don't go there. Like we always watch horror
Hmm.
movies and there's a noise in the basement and people always go there and that's how they get
Hmm.
killed. Like you think people would have learned by now. But you can also look at it from another perspective, which is we all have a forest that we fear to enter. And sometimes our
Hmm.
subconscious mind is telling us not to do something. And we sometimes go against our own very nature and do something that ends up being harmful or not good for us. The
Hmm.
ability to be ambiguous to a certain degree in your lyrical content, is that something that has grown over the years as a songwriter and as a lyrical writer?
Well, first off, thank you. Uh, has it? I don't know. I don't know if it. I feel like that's been. I hope that I've gotten better at things, of course, through the years. Although you don't only get better, sometimes you also simply change. Uh, in that there are certain ways that you can only be truly great when you're 20, and there are other ways that you can only be truly great when you're 40, and you have to embrace, w what that greatness is in different ages, I guess. Um, but craftsmanship should improve over the years as you put time into something. Um, but I think the ambiguous side of things, yeah, I feel like those. try to think of the Rolodex of every song I've ever been part of writing is going through. It didn't feel necessarily new to me, although I was particularly pleased with that one because it does, to me, there's almost like three different voices in the song because you have the story being told in the beginning of the song. There's a third person there, and she's running, and and the tracks are covered by snow, and you start to paint that big picture of it. But then it's kind of me, or could very well be the person running there who is in that pre-chorus. They say there's something wrong with me, nothing I haven't heard before. So it's this all, so there's escape and there's shaming and the guilt trip and being pushed aside, but then also the curiosity of what's beyond the field, something in the trees and so on. But then the chorus becomes this separate, that there comes the shaming and the warning and the forbidden and taboo that, you kind of, that you run up against. So yeah, I think to me, it feels a bit multi-voiced, the song. Uh, and I don't, yeah. And I felt pretty good at that, pretty good with that and the way it turned out. It's just so hard to, because I guess what I'm thinking is that yeah, I gain a lot on the way, and that, but you also sacrifice things along the way to get there. And then I'm also very fascinated with when you can make something way more concrete, be very poetic. One of those karaoke songs I like to sing, and it's not a particularly challenging song, in the notes you sing, but again, the ability to convey a story, to have the lyrics mean what they mean. I love singing Sunday Morning Coming Down as part of my practice routine. And that is way less ambiguous. That is a guy, a kind of bit of a bum that wakes up hungover and spends a Sunday full of regrets for the night before and life catching up with him after a wild weekend and it just this on a it's way more concrete on a surface level thing that good country music does a lot, I think. But then because it's when it's so well written and so beautifully performed, how you can connect and resonate with you, the listeners, in ways that that's a different way of doing it, and so that's where I look even more for a challenge now. Like, okay, how do you write Sunday Morning Coming Down for a heavy metal song? What's that? And to make it mean that.
Avatar didn't get here by luck. You guys have put in a lot of hard work and building what the band has become. By the way,
Hmm.
just want to say this: you guys are my favorite live band.
Thank you very much.
I've never seen a live show from you guys where I felt like I walked away missing something or like I didn't get my
Mhm.
money's worth. Like best
Well,
live band.
thank you.
I tell this to everybody. When people ask me who's your favorite live band, Avatar, hands down, you guys are always so good live. And I feel like you guys were good live when I first saw you. You're good live now. Like it's been super consistent from that standpoint. But from a band's growth and a band's development, not just from a live perspective, from a studio perspective, is there a specific record that you can point to as saying like this was a turning point for us?
Yeah, Black Waltz. Um, because a lot of of course, a lot of stylistic things happen. A pain in my face. There was a lot of discovery just in finally connecting the dots between what we felt our music sounded like and what we felt our music should look like and everything, and it all came together. But behind the scenes, under the hood, more importantly, Black Waltz was our last album, and every album since then has been our last album. And it's so if you only get to do one more, this is it. You got 1 week to live. How do you want to spend that time? That kind of approach to each one, and therefore really being all about what we want it to be, uh, to really shake off, for us at least, a very youthful sin, and I think it's a sin of us all growing up, thinking, adults tell it to the kids all the time, don't worry too much about what other people think, or people should say that to kids a lot, and then and most do, I think, because we kind of grow out of that over time, and I think we shook the last bits of that off ourselves with Black Walls. And so that's it. No matter what stylistically we have leaned into over the years, that that's the big one for that.
Wow, really interesting. I love that answer because that was something that has always been on the back of my mind. Thank you
Hmm.
very much for your time. This was an absolute pleasure. I had a great
Likewise, man.
I had a great time chatting with you about the new record, Don't Go in the Forest by Avatar. Once again, out October 31st. There'll be a link in the description of this video for the pre-order stuff. I hope to see you in Toronto soon to play a live show for us here. Like I said, you guys are my favorite live band, so I cannot wait to hear
Thank
these
you.
songs live.
Well, Toronto has been a lot of fun, especially the time when they lost our luggage and we dressed a bit differently. It was great. We were bare feet. I loved it. But yeah, hey man,
It
thank you
was
for
still a
so
great
much for your time.
show. It's still a
It
great show.
was. It was very special.
So I'm not complaining. I mean, I would take you guys on an acoustic show if that's what we have to. Like
Mm.
if the airport people lose your stuff. So thank you very much for your time today. Really appreciate it. All
Thank
the
you.
best.
Thank you. Have a good one.